Indian President Govind arrives in Gambia for a two-day state visit. The Gambian National Assembly member for Woolly West questions on sea of loan deals for the 2021 OIC summit, which was today tabled to the lawmakers. September 11 planner open to working against Saudi Arabia. Is and more coming on the way on the world today on iAfrica TV. Hello viewers, you are watching the World Today News. I am Fatmata Jaju. We now take a look at our first story. Indian President this afternoon arrived in the Gambia for a two-day working visit in the new West African state. President Ramnath Kovind's visit is the highest level of Indian officials ever to the Gambia, which is expected to shine the spotlight on strong bilateral ties between the two countries. Gambia's relations with the South Asian nation began in 1965 and continued to grow mainly in the fields of trade and education. As per engagements, President Kovind is scheduled to have discussion with President Adama Barrow at State House in Banjul tomorrow, where they are expected to discuss potential projects, including facelifting of the Banjul International Airport and the long-awaited expansion of the Banjul Seaport. He will also hold a tete-a-tete with the media, which will be conducted alongside handling over of the ISA instrument of ratification. On Wednesday, the visiting president will deliver address at the National Assembly before his departure on Thursday. The Indian president will lead the inauguration of exhibition on Mahatma Gandhi and Khadi at Ebunjan Theatre in Serekunda. Leader of the PDOIS has questioned government for the absence of government policy to ban production and importation of alcohol. He challenged the Minister of Finance to come up with fact-based reason for the heightened tax on alcoholic beverages. Discussion on this intoxicant was brought to the National Assembly by government for Assembly members to consider reduction of its taxes. Daifatu has more.
Halifa Sallah, National Assembly member for Secunda and leader of the PDOIS party, argued that the absence of government policy to ban alcohol leaves scanty argument taxation on the products. His view formed part of debate following government's proposal to reduce tax on alcoholic beverages for consideration of the National Assembly. Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs Mamburen Njai submitted that the increment of the 2012 rates in December last year was designed to address societal safety. His ministry was, however, compelled to reduce the taxes after players in the beverage industry cried foul.
Honorable Speaker, the approved new excise tax was in no way an intended target for a specific sector, but rather prepared by a growing need to initiate social safety net for the youth, the cream of our society, from the negative effects of alcoholic abuse due to lower prices. In addition, road safety over the years have largely been compromised by drunk driving, mostly by youths. This and many other reasons were behind the proposal before this National Assembly to increase the excise tax on alcoholic beverages in December 2018.
Mr. Sallah replied that it is important for government to look at the issue of alcohol consumption and come up with a policy of how to address it. He questioned why didn't the government ban the production and importation of alcohol products.
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Minister indicated that alcoholic consumption had been increasing among our young population, and therefore the taxation is designed for it. Why did the government simply abolish the investment into any institution that produces alcohol or the importation of alcohol? The government therefore does not have a policy of prohibition, and we don't want to hear that the taxation was designed to do that. If that is the objective, you can use stronger hand measures to do it, to abolish it. So that is not the policy of the government. And the two are not related. So what is important is for the government to look at the issue of alcohol consumption or drug consumption in our population and come with the policy of how to address it. We will support it.
For Salah, it was important for the minister to come up with facts as to who is consuming alcoholic beverages in the country, without which the assembly is left to speculate.
What I know for a fact is that for how many decades an industry is here actually producing all those drinks and has employed Gambian population and is paying tax, as we have been told from other sources, correct or not, other sources, by our researchers, about 110 million paid last year to government revenue, which would be useful for hospitals and other means. So if that is the case, then that industry needs some protection. If you wanted to alter what it is producing, then inject it as government policy that we want you to move into one-year production or other production and we'll give you support. So diversify your investment, but you do not simply put iron on the fork and say collapse. If it collapses, jobs will be lost, revenue will be lost, it will not add value, and still alcohol is not banned, therefore smuggling, as the member for Nyomi said, will start coming and people will still consume it and it will not have any impact on socioeconomic development.
National Assembly has, however, adopted the revised tax rates on beer from 75 to 35%, spirit and wine each from 60 to 40%. The decision was not done without debate as to the negative impact of alcoholic drinks on the youth. For iAfrican News, Ndei Fatu Bangura.
Honorable Salah, in yesterday's extraordinary session, focused on revising the tax on alcoholic beverages, said the government used wrong measures in addressing alcohol consumption. Youth-led empowerment organization Team Gomsabopa has announced key recommendation for government to consider as part of effort to achieve a successful security sector reform. The group said in a press conference that police could have been handled more amicably through dialogue with protesters in Brikama. It also recommended for the quick and thorough investigation on alleged killing of 2 people allegedly by the police. Amadou Kante files in this report.
Team Gomsabopa, a civil society organization, held a press conference labeling Gambian police as brutal on the accounts of their response to protesters in the #occupied Brikama Area Council and the death of university student Seka allegedly in the hands of police. Yusuf Taylor said their team is out to help in the restoration of good governance, respect for human rights and rule of law. He pointed out that the Brikama incident, which sought violent police response on protesters, could have been avoided if authorities were open for dialogue.
In the midst of the chaos, the movement still met the council and submitted their demand and agreed to speak to protesters to abort the protest. The movement proceeded to meet fellow protesters in Brikama to abort the protest. Nonetheless, what security officers did was to continue to fire their gas on protesters. Since the police ended up facilitating dialogue with the council, this proves that all the violence could have been avoided if dialogue was prioritized in the morning. In line with NDP, again, we come to the NDP. We want to highlight that decentralization is imperative for councils to reinvest a reasonable amount of revenues collected back into their electorates.
Ali Cham, otherwise called Killer Is, president of Team Gomsabopa, said there is no jurisdiction for the police initiate brutal physical force against anyone in custody, noting that it is people's right to be treated humanly. The civil society organization called for the resignation of the Inspector General of Police and Minister of Interior. This, they say, is one way to arrive at a successful security sector reform.
Effect the immediate, number 8, effect the immediate resignation of the Interior Minister and the Inspector General of Police for failing to protect the lives of the people in their jurisdiction. It must be recalled that the Interior Minister pronounced at the presidential rally in Brikama that hot water will be sprayed on rude protesters. As I quote, the Interior Minister stated, hot water will be sprayed on rude protesters. This highlights the urgent need for security sector reform to include sufficient checks and balances on appointed these positions, which must not be politicized. Number 9, restore confidence in the security sector by suspending all security personnel that confess to gross human rights violations at the Truth, Reconciliation and Repatriation Commission pending an investigation. Gambian taxpayers cannot afford to review human rights violated with a monthly salary. And finally, number 10, collaborate with a more proactive National Assembly Standing Committee on Defense and National Security to implement urgent changes which will protect the lives of the people in the Gambia.
The media briefing was attended by family members of the late Seka, who died last month allegedly during a fight against drug enforcement police. Yusuf Njai, who spoke on behalf of the family, said they are keenly following investigations into the death of their family member. He urged government to live by its promise in bringing out justice in the name of Cuba. The crowd control strategy applied by the police, according to the activities, led to the hospitalization of dozens of protesters who came out to demand for more social services from the Brikama Area Council on Wednesday. On the same day, the armed unit of police used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse protesters in the Serekunda market. The Serekunda protest came about after the killing of businessman Usman Dabo, who was arrested by anti-crime unit in connection to stealing. Weeks before this incident, a university student died after fight with drug enforcement police. The Ministry of Interior has said all the deaths alleged by police are being investigated. Reporting for Africa News, M. Amadou Kante.
Team Gumsabopa calls for end to police brutality. Sidia Jatta, National Assembly member for Wole West, has argued that the proposed OIC summit for the Gambia should not constitute any form of emergency on the government, let alone on the people. He made this assertion during the adoption of a loan of $93 million from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in an extraordinary session on Tuesday. The Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs said the loan deal is meant for the construction road and energy infrastructure to facilitate the hosting of the OIC summit in 2022. For Mr. Jatta, the of people in the central and upper river region who are rocked with rainstorm is more worth an emergency than loans for diplomatic meetings.
For 6 years they have been grappling with the problem of electricity in this country. It has never been felt urgent. All of a sudden it has become urgent because it's an OIC conference. Development in the context of a conference is an insult. Providing water for our people in the context of a conference is an insult. I don't know your people, but my people are drinking water as red as this. Anybody who questions that, please come with me tomorrow. Not only in Wuli, but I have been to some parts of Nyaminas. There are people who are drinking water as red as this. You were with me when we went there. And that is not urgent. Some, the way they used to flush their ratings is million times better than this. And that is not an issue. You have not made that an issue. But because an OIC conference is going to take place in the Gambia, there must be good water. For a section infinitesimal section of the population for that period. And you say you are happy about that. I am not happy.
He wondered why was the issue of electric problem for the past 46 years and lack of good water for 54 years of independence was never a government concern until the very day of the London deal.
My people are suffering everywhere in this country. Right now in my constituency, people have no roof over their heads. For 2 weeks, no, in fact, almost a month now. That is my concern, not this. That is the concern of people of this country, to address these people who are homeless. People lost their lives there. Kids. And the government is still quiet about that. They'll tell me, yes, we have sent it. I was there on the ground. I was there. It was just 2 days ago I came back here. Because of this. And you know, again, why this? Extraordinary session. Do what? I was going to come for an extraordinary session for the disaster. And I came extraordinary session for one, reverse of excess tax. And then these other things. Do we need an extraordinary session for this? What is extraordinary? The moment we stop playing into the hands of the executive in this National Assembly, we'll do good for ourselves. How do we play in the hands of the executive? They go, they create their business, come, we want this, it's urgent, it's urgent. And then they drag all of us here, and then we deal with it. When fundamental and urgent matters outside there are left unconsidered, nobody cares about them. What is not important is made urgent and important. What is important and urgent is made useless. Nobody thinks about it. That is our people. Go out there in CRR and URR and see what is happening there currently.
That was Sidia Jatta speaking earlier today at the National Assembly. It could be recalled in the 2019 budget that the Gambia has a stock of domestic debt, $29 billion, representing 40% of GDP as of September last year. The overall public debt for 2018 was estimated at 121% of the entire GDP, putting the country in the place of highly indebted countries in Africa. We'll take a break and come back shortly.
Look guys, you guys got very big grams. I hope you don't get it from where I'm suspecting.
Do you think you're the only one who knows where all the good news come from? My son bought me this ram all the way from abroad with Luo.
Oh yes, this must be Baluo. Me too, my daughter just bought one for me. True Baluo. With Baluo, everything is possible.
This Tabaski, you can buy ram for your family using the trusted Baluo. Just log on to the www.baluo.com website or download the app. You can buy ram otherwise.
Welcome back. You are watching the World Today News Bulletin. We now take a look at the remaining stories. The man suspected of masterminding the September 11, 2001 attacks on the U.S. is said to be open to cooperate with victims in their lawsuit against Saudi Arabia. Khalid Sheikh Ahmed offered his support on condition that the U.S. federal government will drop the death penalty in his prosecution. A court filing made available to the Wall Street Journal accuses the Saudi government of helping to coordinate the attacks that killed nearly 3,000 victims. Terrorist hijackers took over passenger aircraft and crashed two into the World Trade Center and another into the Pentagon some 18 years ago. A plane was crashed on empty land in Pennsylvania after passengers wrestled control of its hijackers. It was likely going to hit either the White House or the U.S. Capitol building. Saudi Arabia has denied any role in the attacks. A previous attempt to broker a plea agreement with Mohammed and 4 other defendants was scrapped over concerns that dropping the death penalty would serve as an official censor of the government torture of the detainees. Mohammed was captured in a joint CIA operation alongside Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Agency in the city of Rawalpindi in March 2003. He was then transferred to CIA black sites where he was repeatedly subjected to interrogation methods criticized as torture. As part of efforts to strengthen their bilateral ties, Russian foreign minister and his Turkish counterpart met on Tuesday. The two allies held talks on sidelines of the 52nd meeting of foreign ministers for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Bangkok. The two countries that have developed armed trade relationship discuss urgent international and regional issues. We have more in this report. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his Turkish counterpart Mevlut Cavusoglu on Tuesday met on bilateral and pressing international and regional issues. Their talk came on the sideline to the 52nd meeting of foreign ministers for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Bangkok. Lavrov is on a 2-day visit to Thailand to participate in the ASEAN meeting, which runs until August 3rd. Turkish foreign minister said they have discussed Syria and the delivery of the S-400 missile defense systems to Turkey. He told the media that S-400s and other issues no problem to NATO, but rather a bilateral issue between Turkey and the United States.
We have no problem with NATO.
Yeah, I know that National Security Council of your country today is in an emergency meeting.
No, it's not an emergency meeting.
Meeting?
Yeah, it was
to discuss
at the end of last meeting, but this is one of the items. We have no issue with NATO. And when you look at the statements of the Secretary General, even the Deputy Secretary General with regards to the S-400s and other issues, it is no problem to NATO. And Turkey has been contributing to the activities of NATO in many areas, and Turkey is in top 5 in its contribution to NATO. So it has been raised at the NATO Ministry and NATO summits, and we will have next NATO summit in December in London. So it is more bilateral issue between Turkey and the United States. It is not an issue between Turkey and NATO.
The Trump administration has threatened Turkey with sanctions over the accusation of the S-400 system from Russia. Washington also said it was removing Ankara from its F-35 fighter jets program after Turkey received the first batch of the S-400 system in mid-July. Turkey is, however, paying more attention on political process and establishment of framework to govern its relations with Russia. Russia and Turkey foreign ministers met on the sidelines of the 52nd ASEAN meeting to address issues including international and regional issues. The UN Special Representative to Libya to address the United Nations Security Council and through his time-part plan of action has urged the Council to call on authorities in Tripoli to close down all detention centers and free the detainees, calling it a strategic decision. His move is considered as a stepping stone in the move towards peaceful resolution of crisis in Libya.
UN Special Representative for Libya Ghassan Salam have put a 3-part plan of action to end the conflict in the war-torn Libya. Salam made this in an address to the Security Council via teleconference from the Libya capital Tripoli. He said the armed conflict in the country shows no sign of abating, with the war around Tripoli having left nearly over 1,000 deaths, including over 100 civilians.
What is required is that they be shattered. Towards this end, I urge the Council now to call upon the authorities in Tripoli to take the long-delayed but much-needed strategic decision to free those who are detained in these centers. UNSMIL has devised a plan for an organized and gradual closure of all detention centers and seeks your support for its implementation.
The special representative said Libya has been a terrain of experimentation of new military technologies and recycling of old weapons.
It is past time for Libyans to end this long season of mutual suspicion, fear, and division. This triple action will require consensus in this Council and amongst the member states who exert influence on the ground. As for the Libyans, they need to listen to their better angels. They are now fighting the wars of others, and in so doing, destroying their country.
The Libyan ambassador El Mahdi El Majabi said prior to the 4th of April, Libya was on its way to a unifying national conference through which the Libyan people hope to exit the transition phase of government. However, with the assault on Tripoli, he said his government had no choice but to protect its people, the capital and surrounding.
أننا نشعر بالأسف لوقوف مجلس مكتوف الأيدي أمام الوضع الخطير.
We regret that the Security Council stands idly in the face of the danger situation the country has reached. We wonder why the Security Council hasn't dotted the I's and crossed the T's and named things for what they are. Why has it not taken a decision to stop and condemn the aggression and to put an end to the negative interferences supporting it?
El Majabi stressed that his government still believes in a peaceful solution and not military solution, despite the difficulties it faces. Government of National Accord was fully prepared to cooperate with Special Representative Salam and to provide all facilitations towards a peaceful resolution to the crisis in Libya. For IK News, Ndeifa Bangura.
That was the UN Special Representative to Libya in an address to the United Nations Security Council. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today News Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, kindly look at our website, iAfrica TV. I am Fatmata Jaju. Bye for now.
Oh guys, you guys got very big rams. I hope you don't get it from where I'm suspecting.
Do you think you are the only one who knows where all the good news comes from? My son bought me this ram all the way from abroad with Baluwo.
Oh yes, this must be Baluwo. Me too, my daughter just bought one for me through Baluwo. With Baluwo, everything is possible.
This Tabaski, you can buy RAM for your family using the trusted Baluwo. Just log on to the www.baluwo.com website or download the app. You can buy RAM, otherwise foodstuffs such as rice, sugar, cooking oil, and much more for your family this Tabaski. Baluwo, better than sending money.
Over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country
After listening to Prime Minister make assessments of the state of the negotiations,
you are giving it to parliamentarians. Where is the source? The parliamentarians themselves should challenge that.
Wait, NRC and DBC, not opposition. All other parties, that doesn't concern NRP or NRP. Oh, they are all in the government. Man, dama against adikani mu nekk $450. Man mu mose anata du mosi mosa anda.
Yow xaalis boobu nu mu fa ñëwee loolu nga war a njëkk a laajte because social security institution social security waru ta ñaaka xaaj defi profit social security loolu way waxtaani bandala loolu dafa war a auto
Barrow ko ñaan mooy na wàcce 3 years am su ne 5 years dafa am problème leadership bu fi bàyyi dafa bon right now amul direction bu correct réew mi ñëpp seen bisa am na si nguri Barrow
benn nit mu jagal réew
Shy Boy, Money, Shy Boy Production.